Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. We will read today from Tafsir al-Mawardi the verses that we had completed discussing. We had been discussing verses 30 to 34, but we didn't read what Imam al-Mawardi said about these verses. We had stopped at قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون in reading from this book. أعلم ما لا تعلمون, I know what you do not know. This is in verse number 30, I think number 30 actually. قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون, I know what you do not know. He says this could have one of three meanings. One of them is that he knows that there's Satan, Iblis amongst them, and what he has in his heart of arrogance, and that whatever is going to come next will basically expose Satan. Satan is supposed to be the first of the evil jinn. All the jinn that came after him, like all the shayateen that came after him, are basically his descendants, just like Adam is the father of all human beings. The second possible meaning is that within the creation of Adam and his descendants, there will be lots of good outcomes in the form of developing this earth and the presence of messengers and righteous people, good deeds, righteous people who will repel evil and so on, which Allah wants to see. People who will go back to Allah and obey Allah out of their free will, out of love and appreciation for Allah, rather than being forced to obey like the rest of the creation that Allah created before them. He says, مختص بعلمه من تدبير المصالح. The third possible meaning is that it is the general statement that Allah, in whatever He does, He knows exactly the best, He knows exactly the wisdom behind it, and that the creation of Allah is not necessarily able to know the wisdom behind everything. So that's a very important statement as well, because when we do not know the reason and wisdom behind certain commandments or certain events, we have to surrender and submit to the wisdom of Allah. And even the angels, they could not totally understand the wisdom behind Allah's choices here. And similarly, the sons of Adam, mankind, for greater reason, would not have the ability to know things behind the reasons behind all Allah's actions. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. He says, calling him Adam could come from one of two roots. I mentioned that when we discussed it. What is the name Adam could come from what root? What could be? Could it Al-Adim al-Ard, from the earth, because he's created from the earth, right? Adim. Or it could come from Al-Adama, which is the dark colored skin, right? We said that before. Al-Asma'a kullaha, the names of all things, what are they? He says here could have one of three meanings. One of them is that the names of all the angels, the names of all his descendants, the names of everything, and that's the stronger opinion here, that Allah taught him and gave him the ability to name everything and that will come into existence, and that is a reality. There's not a single thing that human beings deal with except that they have a name for. Even things that they discover, they immediately invent a name for that thing, right? So that ability is within, that capacity is within this creation of Adam. Now, ثم عرضهم على الملائكة, he displayed these things in front of the angels. just to show them the difference in capabilities, that not every being is suitable for every function or every job. So the angels have their own assignments and own function in the creation of Allah, and they are not suitable to be the vicegerent and deputy of Allah on earth. While Adam has the other ability, which is the ability of knowledge, and that is one of the highest qualities of Adam and his descendants, mankind, the ability to acquire knowledge and discover, and conclude, make conclusions from certain precepts. This is something that is not available to the angels, and also the ability to have language and name things, and the transfer knowledge with using the faculty of language. That's something that Adam was endowed with, while the angels did not have. فقال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين. النبأ الخبر، الإنباء الإعلام. أنبئوني means tell me. It comes from الخبر, news, information. إن كنتم صادقين, if what you say is truthful, if what you have said is true. What could this mean? He says it could have one of 6 meanings. إن كنتم صادقين أني لا أخلق خلقا إلا كنتم أعلم منه. He says, if you are truthful that you are more knowledgeable than any other creation that I may create. So just like I mentioned the example before, when Musa alayhi salam was asked by one of his followers, who is the most knowledgeable on earth, he says, I am, thinking because he's the prophet that he is. But then Allah blamed him, criticized him for that. He says, no, I have someone who is more knowledgeable than you, and you go and learn from him. This is to humble Musa alayhi salam. Similarly, the angels, they thought because they are ibadun muqarrabun, they have this closeness to Allah, that Allah will not create any creation that could have any kind of privilege over them, or status over them, or more knowledge than they do. So Allah wanted to show them and humble them by this. لأنه هجس في نفوسهم أنهم أعلم من غيرهم, because that occurred within their they thought, this thought occurred to them that they are more knowledgeable or more worthy. That's why Allah said that to them. إن كنتم صادقين فيما زعمتم أن خلفاء يفسدون في الأرض. If you are truthful that this creation of mine will only create mischief on earth. The sons of Adam or mankind will create mischief, but also they will do lots of good. So, but the angels, when they displayed their opinion, they only mentioned one feature of mankind, is that this creation of yours, how can it be the deputy or vicegerent on earth when they can do such and such? But they only mentioned the evil actions, right? إن كنتم صادقين إن كنتم صادقين أني إن استخلفتكم فيما سبحتموني وقدستموني فإن استخلفت غيركم فيها عصاني. The same meaning basically. إن كنتم صادقين فيما وقع في نفوسكم أني لا أخلق خلقا إلا كنتم أفضل منه. It goes back to the first meaning as well. The first meaning, if you are truthful that you are more knowledgeable, if you are truthful that you are more worthy. This is basically it. إن كنتم صادقين أي عالمين. إن كنتم صادقين أي معناه إن كنتم صادقين. If you are truthful. Basically, he mentioned all the possible meanings. If you are more knowledgeable, if you are knowledgeable. So some of the meanings that he mentioned here are very similar to each other. So we can go on. إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. العليم العالم من غير تعليم. Al-Alim means he has knowledge of everything without having to acquire that knowledge, without having to acquire it. But any knowledge for any other being that Allah created, this is an inferred knowledge. Allah gives them the ability to acquire knowledge when they had it not before. Hakim, we talked about Hakim, comes from what roots? Wisdom, and the other one is? Hakim. Means to judge, to make decisions, right? To give orders, right? أنه المحكم لأفعاله, that he is wise in what he does. أنه المانع من الفساد. Hakim comes from prevention of corruption. إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Prevention of corruption. You know what they put in the horse, in the mouth of the horse, to guide him and prevent him from going astray? It's called hakama. It's called hakama. It controls the horse from going in a direction that you do not want him to go. He mentioned a nice line of poetry, because that's how they know the roots of these words. They go back to the Arabic poetry and Arabic literature before Islam. And that's why they bring these quotations from lines of poetry. أبني حنيفة أحكموا سفهاءكم إني أخاف عليكم أن أغضب. أحكموا سفهاءكم means control you're arrogant, you're ignorant. Somebody is warning another tribe from inciting trouble with him. He says, O Bani Hanifa, control your ignorant, because I'm afraid that I might get angry. I'm warning you I might get angry. والثالث أنه المصيب للحق ومنه سمي القاضي حاكما لأنه يصيب الحق. الحكيم means always his decisions are right. That is why the qadi, the judge, is called hakim, called hakim as well. And the ruler is called hakim as well. وأعلم ما تبدون وما كنتم تكتمون. And I know what you revealed and what you concealed. What ما كنتم تكتمون. What you concealed could have one of two meanings. He says one of them is that ما أصره إبليس من الكبر والعصيان. Whatever was in the heart of Iblis, Satan, of arrogance and evil. والثاني الذي كتموه ما أضمروه في أنفسهم في أن الله تعالى لا يخلق خلقا إلا كانوا أكرم منه. Which I mentioned before that. They thought that they were worthy than Adam for this kind of position. وإذ قلنا للملائكة اسجدوا لآدم. This is where we stopped. فسجدوا إلا إبليس أبى واستكبر وكان من الكافرين. He says السجود أمرهم بالسجود له تكريما وتعظيما لشأنه, to honor Adam. Now, this commandment for sujood, we will finish here. This commandment for sujood, was it directed for the angels? And if it was directed for the angels, was Iblis, Satan, was he amongst or of the angels? How was this commandment directed to him? وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ, Allah commanded who? The angels. So was Iblis one of the angels?
Yes, it's one of them.
Well, he was one of them, he was an angel?
Yes, he was one of the angels.
Okay. What, any other opinion?
No.
كان من الجن, right? The Quran says very clearly, he was from the jinn, he was not from the angels, right? But so, and this is اختلفوا في إبليس هل كان من الملائكة من الجن? Some people said that he was from the angels. Because he says except he commanded the angels, they all made sujood, prostration, except for Iblis. So logically you would think that he is one of them. But this other verse said he was from the jinn. And also we know from the features of the angels, لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. They never disobey. Now, the other opinion is that إنه ليس من الملائكة إنما هو من الجن. كما أن آدم أبو الإنس هو أبو الجن. He is the first and the father of all the jinn, and just like Adam is the father of all the ins. Okay. Why this commandment? Why was he included in this command? Some scholars say that he was very righteous, or at least apparently was very righteous, to the extent that he was allowed to worship Allah along with the angels. Like he was doing actions quite similar to the angels, so he was included. And whatever the angels were commanded to do, he would be commanded to do as well. But he had this problem of arrogance inside him that was revealed by this test that Allah put him in. You follow? That could be one of the explanations. Another explanation I heard from Imam Sha'rawi is that if you have different ranking officers, for instance, you have the general and you have a regular soldier, and then the king orders the soldiers, for instance, to the generals to bow for him. What do you expect from the soldiers who are of a lesser rank? Of course, they have to. They have to know that this commandment not only applies to the high-ranking generals, but obviously, for a greater reason, it applies to these soldiers who are of a lesser rank. These are two explanations. But you have to know that the opinion that they were from he was from an angels, this is actually opinion of some very well respected scholars like Ibn Abbas, Ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Musayyib, Ibn Jurayj. Subhanallah. It's a difficult question. You can't really find a very satisfying answer to was he from the angels or was he from the jinn. Well, we know he was from the jinn from the Quran, but why the commandment was directed to him, that is not something that you can find a very convincing answer for. We'll stop here.
Even Iblis or the Fatha is from a different group, isn't it correct?
Sorry?
The Fatha and Iblisa in
Ablasa.
a different group.
How is a different group?
قال اسجدوا لآدم فسجدوا كل إلا إبليس.
إلا إبليس. نعم.
It's not إبليسو. If he was from the same group, it would have been إبليسو. إبليس was from a different group.
الاستثناء يكون يعني he's talking about the فتحة. الاستثناء بإلا يكون مفتوح لو المستثنى منه مذكور وكان يعني الجملة غير منفية. مثلا فسجدوا كلهم يعني مذكورين إلا إبليس. فهمني يعني لا he could be from the same group. Actually it indicates that he is from the same group. You follow? If it was إلا إبليس كان يبقى استثناء منقطع يعني ويبقى فهمني. It's just a grammatical thing. No, but the confusion still persists here because grammatically it could mean that he's actually from them. Could mean that he's actually from them. نعم.
سؤال الملائكة خلقوا من ايش؟
خلق لا بالضبط كده. الملائكة خلقوا the angels are created out of light. والجان خلقناه من قبل من نار السموم from fire.
خلقتني من نار.
ما شاء الله صح. That's conclusive. That's conclusive that he is from the what? Jinn. Because he says you have created me from fire, right? No. I've never come across this one, but this is definitely كان من الجن. The Quran says it clearly. He was from the jinn, and then he says I was created from fire. That proves that he is from the jinn, right? No. And then the angels never disobey, and he disobeyed. You follow? No.